Hello viewers, today we are proceeding with our class notes about management decision and control. And the first video we were giving the introductory part, how we should be doing the question selection so that we can be able to minimize the time spent and be able to maximize the points for the scores. Today, we are going to begin our class. And as we agreed, we said we are going to start with management information and communication. But we are saying that under this, we are seeing we have different subtopics. And we want to start by defining what information is. And we are saying that information refers to the facts, provided or learned about something or someone. In other words, it's the data that is processed and it is in a useful state. In other words, from our normal definitions, we used to say that information is a processed data. Whereas data, we used to say these are raw facts and figures. So when those raw facts and figures are being processed into a useful information, that's what we call information. So let's try to look at the sources of information. We see where we can be able to get the information. It can be in terms of the raw facts, as we say, the primary data, or it can be the processed one. So we are saying we have two main sources of information. And one, we have the primary information. And this primary information looks at the sources that provide the first-hand information about an event, about a person, or about any given object. For example, we may look at the data collected during the market research. If we go in the field, or if you are doing these market surveys, that information that we are going to be gathering is what we call the primary source, which is the information that we are getting from the primary source. Then we have also the secondary information source. This is a source compiled by someone else. It is the information that we get, like the same way we are receiving the notes that are being prepared and they are being presented to you. It means the information I'm giving you, it's not you who prepared it, it's me who actually did the research and I put it together so that you can be able to receive the message that can help you pass. It means if I give you the notes that will not help you to pass, it means the information I've given you is not useful, or it's not in its useful state. Even you can't even consume it. But if I give you the information that is just the same as what the syllabus says, then it means that information is useful, or it is in its useful state, because it is going to help you pass. But if I give you the information, it is too bulk, to the extent that you, even if you are to read it, it will take a lot of time. And at that point, you may not even understand them because it's too bulk for a small concept. Something small that has been explained in 20 to 30 paragraphs. So something is just that information that you get from the secondary source, or you get from someone else, that has been compiled by someone else. We can get that information from the newspapers, the books, even the internet, even magazines. That's where we can be able to get the information. But the primary information, we get it from the field. If we go to the field and we get our own first-hand information. If you don't go in the field, it's like when someone sits down and starts to make or does some study to be able to come up with these books you can see, or these pamphlets that we use when you're giving lectures. So that what we go through is what we call, if at all you're trying to get the first-hand information, you are the one developing it in the first time, then it means we are getting that from the primary information source. But if the information has been compiled by someone, maybe you've read it in a book, you've read it somewhere, you've got maybe a magazine, and you've actually got to know that, then it means you have got that from a secondary source. So let's try to look at the features, or the characteristics, or the attributes of information. How is a good information looks like, or how it should be. So we are going to look at the characteristics of information. One, we are saying timeliness. These things, they are the ones we looked at, whatever we could do, whatever we heard about information, because we had this management information system. We used to talk about data, information, and all that. So the same way we talked about them that side is the same way we are talking about them here. Timeliness, this means that the information must reach the recipient between the prescribed time frame. It means if you are to deliver the information, make sure you deliver that information on time. If someone says, I want that newspaper before midday, make sure you do that. Another example you can look at this timeliness is in the sense of these same newspapers. It is very hard for these newspaper vendors to sell to you newspapers of maybe yesterday. And they are giving you that news as if the news for today, as in they are the news for today. So if those newspapers, they are coming on a daily basis, it means for me to consume that information, since the information is happening now, you give me that newspaper early. That's why you find most of the times they are selling newspapers in the morning, because by the time it reaches afternoon, it has already expired. More news have come up. So what that means is, it means you supply the newspapers at the time when people are ready to consume it, because by the time it goes to afternoon, I've already known what I would have known when I've just bought the newspaper. So it should be given at the right time. That's why you find that newspapers are sold in the morning and late in the evening. The one for tomorrow is supposed to be sold today in the evening, so that early morning they have actually known what happened, so that we don't compromise what we write the next time. So that's how it is. Then the second one, we are looking at accuracy. Accuracy, the information should be at least free from errors. This means that the information is free from errors and mistakes. It reflects clearly and accurately the meaning of data. If they have given you figures about maybe salary for certain employees, we shouldn't find figures we can't even relate. We should at least know, and by the time you look at the figure, you can know, but this one is earning this, the other one is earning this, the other one is earning, and you can categorically see that these people, they are earning in different ranges. So it shouldn't be having errors. If someone gives you the information is full of errors, you can't even understand the meaning. If someone gives you a text on WhatsApp or Twitter, or you see it anywhere on Facebook, and you actually don't understand, you read it, but you don't, like, you fail to get the meaning, then it means someone has not actually communicated. Because we know one of the rules of effective communication, the person you are intending to deliver that information should actually understand what you are meaning. Because if you don't receive the feedback, it means the person never understood that's what it means in most cases. Then 3 is relevant or relevancy. This means that information specifically helps the recipient to achieve the intended purpose. If you give me the information, maybe I'm an accountant, but you are giving me information about how nitrogen is formed, about how you do the chemical reactions, I may not understand, because at the end of the day, I may not interpret, I may not even understand what you are trying to mean, because I'm not going to use that information anywhere in my daily routine. So if you're giving me if you're selling books, you should also know where to sell some of the books. You can't sell a chemistry book to an accountant. The person is used of debiting and crediting. You are bringing chemistry, maybe for their kids, but you should also try to understand if at all your targeted customer should be able to use that information, and that information should be helpful to that person. That's what we call relevance. If something is irrelevant, it means you have actually given me the information which I can't even read. Even if I read it, it will not help me. So like when someone is not a politician, but you are giving them politics, or you are analyzing politics. So that's how certain things are. When the information is relevant, someone can actually be able to receive that information, because if they don't receive, then it doesn't turn out to be useful, because we say the information should be in its useful state. Then the fourth one, we look at adequacy or adequate. This means that the information must be sufficient in quantity. Because when information is adequate, it helps the users to make appropriate decisions. What this means is that if at all I've been given maybe financial statements, but the financial statements are not complete, then it means I will not be able to understand what to advise, because at the end of the day, the information you have given me is incomplete. So what we are saying, that for the information to be good, it should be adequate. It should be in a full capacity. In other words, if let's say you're a salesperson, but what you are only talking about is the good thing about the product you are selling, but you are not giving the customer the other bad part of the product. At the end of the day, if this customer buys and you manage to convince the customer to buy, if he faces the other challenges, he or she will not come back. But if at all you had explained, then the customer would find ways of how to resolve the solution. And at the end of the day, you keep selling more and more and more. So the last one we can talk about, the information should be understood by the recipient. If at all I've said, if you text me an SMS or a WhatsApp chat and I don't understand, then it means I will not be able to respond accordingly. So when the information is misunderstood, you may find someone is responding to a different, or is giving you a different scenario when you're expecting something else. If let's say you don't do, if someone doesn't understand how maybe to use QuickBooks and you're selling QuickBooks, someone will just look at your application and says, this is not useful to me, because at the end of the day, I don't know how to operate it. So someone should be able to understand the message that I'm bringing this, and the person I'm taking to is actually knowing what I'm actually bringing. So that's what we are saying, that the recipient, the person who is receiving the information, should be understanding that information. Then the other part, we try to look at the communication, because we said our first topic is going to be management, information, and communication. So we've seen information, but let's now try to look at the communication aspect. Communication refers to the exchange or the exchanging of information by way of speaking, writing, or using any media. Someone can communicate on Twitter. Someone can communicate on WhatsApp. That's a way of communication. But what this means is that we must be receiving an exchange. Someone must be receiving the information, and there is someone who is actually sending the information. That's what we call communication. But that communication should be received by either in words, someone is speaking, or verbal, like the way I'm doing my tutorials. You find that I'm just speaking, that people can actually, those who are actually in the same, who are actually doing accounting, they are the right people I'm targeting. And when we try to look at the information I'm giving them, if it is clear to them, then they also consume it. So if they consume it, then we are saying that communication has been completed, because I'm giving out, I'm the sender, then the audience or the viewers are going to be our recipients. So the mode or the way I'm delivering the information is by speaking. It may be by speaking, and at the same time it is written, or by writing, because we are seeing the screen and we are seeing the information that has been displayed there. Or it may be using any other social media. It may be a social media, it may be any media that can be able to deliver information. Remember, this information is not all about the information that we can actually speak. There is an information that can come in terms of sound. Those old days we used to be having timekeepers at school. Whenever they could ring the bell, you could say maybe it is time for lunch. So it's also an information, because the person who rings the bell, then we can actually know that it's now time. So let's try to look at maybe the types of communication. The types of communication, we are saying we have the non-verbal communication, and the verbal communication. Verbal, from the word, it is so long as someone is giving out a sound, so long as a sound is moving out, or so long as the voice is coming out of any instrument, then that's verbal. But where we don't actually have any verbal communication, it's what we call the non-verbal. In other words, if at all we are not receiving the verbal communication, or we are not getting any sound or voice, it means someone is using signs or gestures, symbols or icons, and all that. The communication, we said it is broken down into non-verbal and the vocal or the verbal communication. We are seeing that the non-verbal communication involves using signatures, signs, gestures, signals, symbols, icons, and others. And it is that is going to be actually delivering out information, because we are saying that in communication, we are trying to look at the exchange of message between people, and we can do that in various ways as shown above. One of them, we are saying if you use signs, there are those people who can't speak, but they can listen. Meaning, sorry, there are those people who can't speak, but they can listen. And there are those people who can't actually see, but they can talk. So you find that if at all someone is seeing, when you're using a sign, someone can actually interpret what you're meaning and responds accordingly. So that's a way of transferring the information or exchanging the message. Then the verbal, we said this involves the speeches and others. Speeches, like even the tutorials we are having, lectures and all that, that's verbal communication or vocal communication. This is what we call the vocal communication, where the voice comes out and we either try to communicate using speeches, laughters, or any other way, provided your voice comes out when communicating something to the other person. So long as there is a voice coming out of you, it may be in terms of a sound, it may be in terms of someone is laughing, it may be in terms of a speech, but so long as there is a voice coming out of someone, directing that voice to another person, then we will call it verbal. Let's look at a matter called the value of information. It's that will help us to make some computations when you are determining the value of information. We shall look at it in the further topics that we are going to be looking at. But as far as the theoretical aspects are concerned, we are seeing that value of information, this is the amount a decision maker is willing to pay for the information prior or before making the decision. What this means is that the value of information is what someone is willing to pay in order to obtain that information. If, let's say, how much are you willing to pay for a newspaper? If at all someone is looking maybe for a job, how much are you willing to pay for that advert or for that newspaper where you saw companies advertising, in order to be able to get the rest of the details of the job? If, let's say, you are the company who actually does the tendering business, you have given out, maybe you have to look for newspapers so that you can see companies that are giving out bids for different items. So if you are that company, how much do you willing to pay, or how much are you willing to pay for someone who is going to give you that tender, or the information that is relating to the contract that you may get? So that's basically what we term the value of information. But we have a note which says that the cost of obtaining the information should not exceed the value obtained from it. What this means is that if at all someone is giving me a contract, but the person who has given me the information about that contract is asking me more than what I'm going to earn from the contract, then it shouldn't be worthwhile, because at the end of the day, you are putting more than it is costing you more than what you are going to be earning from it. So whenever you're getting this information, especially for bids, someone gives you a deal, it's a deal, but the person wants maybe a percentage which is more than what you are going to actually earn. So that's basically what we can see from the notes. But to put more emphasis on the value of information, because it's this value of information that we are going to look at somewhere ahead, where we are going to be looking at some of the computations about the value of information. Because the information that is valuable, the information that is useful, it is not consumed at a zero cost. Just like the way you are consuming these tutorials, there is a cost of data that you incur for you to be able to have this access, or the cost of the internet or the Wi-Fi that you are incurring for you to access some of these materials. So we are adding that the value of information, we are trying to look at how much are we willing to pay for the information. Most of the times we attach a certain value to that information that you have actually received. And that's why we are saying that the benefit should be able to exceed the cost. For example, we can say that we can see maybe if you are going to pay for lectures, let's say we are looking for lectures and you are going to pay for MD's paper, and you are finding that maybe for this MD's paper you are willing to pay maybe $50. But for you, that maybe that's what we charge as the tuition providers. We are charging $50 per MDC class. But for you, the person who is going to actually consume those lectures, you are maybe seeing that for you can only pay $30. So you find that that $30 you are willing to pay is the value that you can pay for the information you are expecting to receive, or it is the value that you are expecting to pay for MDC, but not the 50 as suggested. Because me, I set my own price, then you give me what you have, and we negotiate. If at all you are giving me less than what if at all you are giving me less than what I actually charge, then I may decide and say I'm not going to give you a service, or I'm going to give you the service. So it's not what has been said, but it's actually what the customer is willing to pay. That's what we call the value of information. So that $30 you're willing to pay, it will be the value that you have attached for the information, for the MDC information you are going to receive. So that means that the benefits you are going to receive from that MDC information is not going to exceed $30, because at the end of the day, if at all you want to pass, you are paying to pass, and you are giving a cost, maybe you are paying at least the person should have charged me maybe $30. It means it's that $30 is equivalent to how you value the person. Because if you know that maybe if I'm given what these people are suggesting, then it is going to help me get this, because you know what you are after for you to do MDC. If you're after maybe passing, then you base that for me to pass MDC, I'm just allocating $10 than what the tuition provider is charging. So that's how it is. So when we are looking when you are looking at the value of information, we have to weigh the benefit and the costs we have incurred. So the rest we shall look at them as we reach there. But for now, what you have to look at for the value of information, you have to know the cost you have incurred, and you know the benefits that you are going to get from that information you are paying. Then what will happen is that the cost shouldn't exceed the value you are expecting to receive. So we can try to look at the last bit of the first topic of measurement theory. It's what we are going to look at, and it will be the last one that will close our first topic as far as management information and communication is concerned. So we are looking at management theory, also the measurement theory. This measurement theory, the way it is just measurement. In other words, this is the attempt to understand scientific measurements. In other words, it is the study of how numbers are assigned to objects or phenomena. It's like if, let's say, you want to buy sugar, but you are saying that sugar is going to be sold in kilograms. If it is power is in kilowatts. So if it is in distance or transport, they charge you per kilometer. It's like a driver which brings that item or that activity. So it's what we are looking at here. We are trying to understand how certain things are going to be measured, or which units should we assign to such an activity or to a given item or object. So the measurement theory is all about which items are we going to assign, or which units, the measurement units, are we going to assign to a given object. So it looks at the kind of things that can be measured and how different measures relate to each other. We are trying to look at how, if maybe it is transport costs, how is transport related to the kilometers someone has traveled? That's the kind of thing, or the kind of analysis that we are trying to look at. We are trying to create, to see how certain things are going to be measured. That first of all, I'm going to charge someone per kilometer. How do you come to that conclusion that maybe I'm going to charge someone according to per kilometer? I'm going to charge or to pay someone according to the hours worked. Then if you are going to pay me according to the hours I've worked, it means the hours and the work, they have a relationship, or there is a correlation between the two, or there is a relationship between the two activities. And it is that relationship that is leading us to get a hourly pay or a wage pay per hour. So it's that theory that we are going to be looking at. So we are saying that in measurement theory, we try to, because here we try to relate different measurements. For example, we can say maybe if we say one kilogram equals to 1,000 grams, or 1 ton is equal to 1,000 kilograms, then that analysis we have done is actually what we call measurement theory. We are equating a kilogram to a ton, and we are equating a ton to a kilogram. It means a ton and a kilogram, there is a relationship between the two items. If at all we are saying one kg or 1 kilogram is equivalent to 1,000 grams, it means there is a relationship between grams and kilograms. And that's why we are able to relate the two items. So if we want to know how heavy a kilogram is, then we need to relate it to a thing or something else. So that we can be able to quantify the application of these items. Because if you want to know that maybe my weight is 50 kgs, then I can relate my kgs to the kgs of the other person. And by doing so, we can say that someone is using measurement theory. So someone may be wondering, what is the relevance? Oh, how is measurement theory important as per MDC paper? We are saying that MDC, everything we are going to be doing, remember, if let's say it is in a company, we are going to be comparing so many things, so many aspects. So we better look at them one by one. So the relevance of MDC, we are going to use this, the relevance of measurement theory is to quantify items and also compare different items. In other words, what we are going to be doing is we are going to be assigning a value. Even these other items we are going to be looking at, even if there is no computation that is going to be done in a certain item, you may find that we need to at least find, if let's say someone says we want to achieve profit, but you attach a value on the profit. So some of the things we are going to be looking at here, they are quantitative, or they are involving values. And those values, those are the ones we call quantity. So how do we quantify them is what we go through under measurement theory. So that's all we want to know from the first topic of the syllabus as far as MDC is concerned, because we have a syllabus that's guiding us on the things that we are supposed to see and what we supposed not to include in the course. So that's the first topic, and we are going to meet in the next video where we're going to be looking at the nature and the role of management accountant. Remember, it's one of our first learning outcome. But don't forget what we discussed. We discussed about the value of information. That's the main key takeaway. The measurement theory, how we assign or how we quantify items and how we relate different items. Then we looked at the information. We've seen what shows that the information is good and what shows the information is bad, and how we can be able to communicate. That's basically what we discussed for in this first video of MDC. Until we meet again, Don't forget to subscribe, share to others. You can also comment and see how and tell us how we can be able to improve in certain areas as far as what you have actually analyzed as far as MDC is concerned. Thank you. Until we meet again.